Well, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to kind of unpack how I discover a child's gifts academically. So I have my master's degree in special education, but that really didn't paint the right picture, because what I was seeing, I've taught in public school, private schools, academies, orphanages, and then in private practice, and I wasn't seeing a lot of discovery. I wasn't seeing a lot of uncovering children's gifts. And so in my process of, Brian was talking about that struggle and that needing that breakthrough in the seed, in the casing of the seed, to kind of release your gifts. In that struggle, I started looking at the special education testing, and let's see, and I started to flip the special ed testing, and I started to focus on all of the individual subtests and look at their gifts. So then I started seeing their gifts, and then I would spend time with the families and ask them, what the family does and what the gifts in the family were, and what their inheritance was from that family, and how they fit into the family, and then, like Brian was saying, some of the things that were even aggravating, ended up being, some of the kids' gifts. And so in that process, in the 2000s, then I started to get this, just by focusing on the gift, not even having all my tools yet. I started seeing incredible gains in children. 2 to 3 years gain was pretty much standard in 6 weeks of attendance. And even on Zoom, and even, that started out in a mega school, a private mega school. And then I went into a public high school, same thing, same results. Then I went into an elementary school, same thing, same results. In fact, I went back to visit, and the principal's like, you need to know, Karen, that the kids that went through you and my friend Pam's program, none of them qualified for special ed services in high school. Like, the things that you did in uncovering their gifts and giving them the skills was enough that they no longer needed special ed services, which is kind of unheard of in the special ed field. Now, as an adult, and now, as I've hit my 60s, I'm getting to hear the ends of the stories. And I've worked with over 2,500. I'm sorry, I'm getting to my right slide. I've worked with over 2,500 kids now. And interesting how many parents were told that they were retarded in school. Parents that, I have one parent that is a railroad engineer. I don't even think he has a degree in what he's doing and what he's leading. He just had those gifts, and he had people that believed in him, honed those gifts, and they were so special and so innovative that he got called into the marketplace to share those gifts and to create those things that were not being created, for such a time as this. And so we really, yesterday, Pam and Daisy and Jake, you had mentioned it, Brian, but in the school systems, we look at the fruit, which is good, but we need a healthy root system. Like Pam was saying yesterday, the right nutrients and the right seasoning and the right timing, the right developmental stages to be able to support the fruit. And without a healthy root system, we won't even get fruit. So, and then this hit me so hard driving to school one day. A storm had come through, and all the trees looked the same. They all looked healthy on the surface. But after a storm came through, two of the trees did not have a healthy root system, or had a shallow root system and fell over in the storm. And so what I do for success is I use the IQ testing to look at a child's ability to receive and store and retrieve information. And then I look at their academic skills, and I'm using all the standardized tests that I've been trained in. But my perspective has changed. I'm looking for the gifts. I'm discovering. It's an adventure for me. And I love, Brian, all of your words and all of your word pictures, because that's exactly how I feel. This is the most fun that I have in life, is meeting a new child with all of these, challenges that people don't know what to do with, and yet they found me. And that's my favorite part, is going in, finding all the clues. And in the process, as I'm asking those questions about their gifts, about their talents, about what they're good at, and then breaking it down to tiny pieces, like the child that knows all the stats. They know all the baseball, whatever sport they're into, they know all of the stats. They know time zones, because they don't want to miss, their sports game. And I have to sit and figure it out and write it on a piece of paper. So there are some skills there in their area of motivation and in their area of interest that we just need to continue to give the right nutrients in the right season to build those up. There are also areas that are challenges. And then to use their strengths to pull up their challenges, because what happens when they're in the wrong environment, and whether that's the wrong environment is a public school, whether the wrong environment is a private school, whether the wrong environment is a homeschool, every child is unique, and there's a unique set of teachers and coaches for each child. And sometimes, and I just want to qualify this to parents, those of you that are looking for that right environment, and there's that struggle, and there's that conflict between you, a lot of times your child and their destiny is so important that you won't get that answer until the last minute, because all the right players need to be in place. Whether that's a private school, whether that's a public school, whether that's homeschooling, whether it's a homeschool co-op, whether it's online and virtual. But when and guess what? You get to make mistakes, and you learn from it, and you figure out what some more of your child's talents, and some more of your child's gifts, and some more of more of their challenges. But so finding that right environment to nurture and to allow that seed to grow is a process, and sometimes it's in a season. I've had moms, go through every, from Florida all the way up to Kansas here, and hit every program as it was developing in the United States. I had a stack, I told the story yesterday, had a stack of files, 2 feet deep. And sure enough, when I went in and I looked at that child's ability to receive and store and retrieve information, I looked at their academic skills, that mom found every program that child's brain needed for that season. And she had all this extra guilt because, we didn't finish the program. I'm a single mom. I'm not a teacher. I'm not qualified, all these limiting beliefs, but her gut and her love for her child had her in the right place in the right season with the right nutrients for her child. And then she was in a virtual online program. And that's when I came in. That's when I got the stack. And that's when I looked at her child. Out of all of these areas that I look at, he only had one area left. And all of the underground, all of the root system, there was one area left, and that was reading comprehension. And in the virtual program, mom was doing everything that I knew to do. And it was actually laying those neurological tracks and building and helping that child therapeutically. And I'm like, this is perfect. This mom has done such a good job. Like, well done, mom. And she's like, nope. She goes, I can't do this. I'm crying myself to sleep. I'm going to put this child who had never been in a public school in a formal setting. She goes, I'm going to put, as a senior, I'm going to put this child in a public school. And oh my goodness. I thought, oh yeah, that school and those kids and all the cliques, they're going to eat him alive. Nope. He was such a good kid. He had such leadership on him, and he loved everybody. Everybody loved him. It was the perfect environment. It was the perfect soil for that season. When he graduated, mom, because I thought, mom's just not hearing, or not interested, or whatever. But she was paying attention, and she said, okay, now that my child's graduated, now that we've hit this milestone, she goes, now tell me what you were trying to say. I said, Mom, what I was trying to say is, well done, good and faithful servant. You had given the right nutrients and the right soil and the right season for your child for his whole life for such a time as this. You had, well done, good and faithful servant. So, and that's, why I love everything that you're saying, Brian, is because every child is unique. Every family is unique. And it is an adventure, and it is a discovery, an uncovering. And how do you, as a parent, uncover things that haven't even been invented yet? It's that step of faith is like, well, like I did with my student that's the baker right now. It's like, you've got something. And you're in the oven baking right now. And when it's time, and who knows, maybe the classes will never be formed. Maybe he'll be the one teaching the classes, or maybe the degree hasn't been formed, but he'll be the one to create that field. My dad always said that to me. When you're good, he goes, Karen, when you're good, they're going to create a job for you. And because when I came out of the special education field, it's like, at that time in the 80s, it was saturated and they didn't need special ed teachers. He's like, nope, you do. What are you passionate about? I was like, well, I love kids. He goes, do what you're passionate about. Didn't even offer to bring me into the family business, because he knew in his gut that the passion, you follow the passion, and that's where the new things are. And so just as my dad went on to create new fields and new areas in insurance and take his dad's insurance company national, my brother took that company online. I have that same gene, I have that same inheritance, but in education. It's like I'm gonna I don't know. It's not about me, but I want to, whatever, it's kind of a double process. It's kind of like when I'm creating the soil and the environment for these kids, and I'm building that family's faith in that child, and rekindling that fire. Especially if they've had a few negative reports from teachers or principals, or they've been in the wrong soil, and there's a bunch of pushback from taking the child out of that soil and putting them in nutrient soil. They just need that fire. Again, it's like, no, I have something. My child has something. We have this inheritance. Sorry, I'm like going off and I don't even know. I've got 7 minutes. But I love the process. I love improving, working on the root system, working on the memory and the processing, and then the buy-in. The kids need to buy in to make goals and make the progress, because it's their life. And all of my students that have come through this process know how they think and how they learn. I met a janitor in a little private school, and he was the only one in the building. And he told me about how he was pulled out of public education and went into a residential school, and all he did for high school was learned how he learned. Now, this janitor, not highly paid in this little private thing, had manuals where he built computers and computer systems. He had figured out how to make movies. Like he could literally pick up anything and do it. He was like the MacGyver of that building, and the youth minister, and the kids loved him. You know, it's like I'm sure that isn't a job description anywhere. That you have a janitor that can build anything, do anything, and reach those kids that, you know, that a lot of people, you know, can't connect with. So you are just a tap away from finding the genius in your child. I'm going to skip through all of the testimonies. Like I said, I've had 2,500 kids, and that got a lot of stories. But I did want to say, you know, the title of this class is Art, Music, and Memory. And I wanted to show a picture of wherever you're at and whatever's happening. We talked on the first day and Wednesday about the different parts of the brain and their different functions. And we also talked a lot about not knowing what we don't know about the brain. But here's what we know about the arts and music, and especially music, is that when it enters in, it doesn't just go to one area. And here's a picture of where it goes. Let's see. So it goes in through the ears, up through the corpus callosum that connect both sides of the brain, and look, it's all over. So you compare what a child is struggling in a challenging area for their memory, or challenging subject area. If you compare it with music, that there's a better chance of it making those neural pathways and crossing across all the different areas, to generalize, and for them to be able to use, not only memorize it and spit it out for a test, but actually be able to use that information. And I spent a lot of time with Pam's daughter, who did auditory therapy with her kids, and she's going to be a guest speaker on Monday. And I'll see how to get that to you if we're going to do it, because our free classes are 7th, 8th, and 9th of every month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we'll see if she'll guest there, or if we'll do a special shot with her. But just music therapy, after some music therapy, her kids were able to follow 3- and 4-part directions. You know, it wasn't even, in my mind, it's like, that's not even related. Like, how can you listen to a song and all of a sudden, you know, be able to do that? I have all the steps to teach a child and to lay those tracks to do that, but music accelerated that process. So keep that in mind when you're picking places and you're picking schools.